Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and we have been spending the day with this all-new 2024 Hyundai Kona. Out for its second generation now, the Kona has a lot of cool things to offer, some sharp new looks here, some fun colors, which is something I really appreciate, and a few different powertrains. So let's go and take a look at what we've got working with here. Big front end differences, kind of that robotic looking styling here. Got this big old light bar that goes right across the front, entirely unbroken, and you'll see when we get to the back there's an element of that in the rear too, although it is technically broken because of the lift gate that comes up. You can get an electric version of this car, but this is one of the more expensive trims that's still a gas. This is called the N line. I actually don't think the N line is the one to get, although it does look really cool. I like the spoiler on it, I like the wheels, I think it looks fun, but as we'll see when we're behind the wheel, the driving experience doesn't really match the looks, if you will. So I think the Limited is actually either the Limited or the SEL is the one to go with. We'll talk about that a little bit more here soon. Let me show you this line I was talking about. So you do still have the LEDs in the back, but it's kind of broken up right here. And with the red, you can't even really see it popping out, but there's like a highlighter green version you might see on the streets. And that one, the red really, the line really sticks out on the back. Popping it open, you can now get a power liftgate for the Kona. So for those of you who like to wait for your lift gates to open up, you can do that. But take a look at how low this load height is. They worked on lowering that. I think that's really good, although there is still a little bit of a lip. So you're gonna have to get over, oh, actually, wait a minute. No, you can adjust this floor here. And now it's in this higher position. Now there's no lip. There's not a huge amount of adjustability there. But even with a spare tire, you can drop it down just that little bit, accommodate a little bit more space, but you're dealing with the lip right there. This is actually really cool. I'm gonna have to put the phone down for it, but you know, a lot of cars have these cargo covers so that your stuff doesn't get seen and broken into quite as often, but they're often in the way if you need to put something large in. So you can, how's the best way to do this? You kind of hit it up, out, but they installed a second set of bracing right here, so you can actually mount it back like this. Ta-da, it actually holds it right there. And that's pretty clever in my eyes. Keep it from, like if you need to put something, although I am just realizing if you need to fold the seats, then it's still remarkably in the way. So there is that, but they tried to think of it. They came up with kind of a cool way of putting that somewhere. If you're like me, you're probably just gonna get rid of it altogether. That's what I did with my hatchbacks. We see a subwoofer right there. That is for the 8-speaker Bose sound system in this car. Haven't given it a listen yet. I've been doing a ride with some colleagues here. You'll meet him here in a moment, Paul. So he's going to join us. Not really going to get a chance to do a proper sound test on this car, but you get a 6-speaker in the base models, the SE and the SEL, and then you start stepping up here and you get an 8-speaker Bose. They added 3 inches of legroom for this new Kona. Every car from every manufacturer, they start small, and then every new generation they get a little bit larger and a little bit larger, and then eventually they get so large that they're no longer in that same class, so then they have to introduce a new model to cycle in below it. The Kona was Hyundai's smallest car for a while, and then now it's bigger, and the Venue is even smaller. So the Venue's fitting in that smaller one, and I bet you next generation of Kona it'll be a little bit larger, because everyone realizes they always want a little bit more space. But they added a lot of leg room here, so you should be able to more easily fit rear-facing car seats. And as a 5'10" person, not only did they extend the car, but they also contoured these seats such that my knees are quite comfortable right there. And you can see my headroom is good as well. In fact, yeah, I'm actually, the recline level is good. This is a particularly comfortable place to be as an adult. And this N line gets this Alcantara fake suede sort of feel. Also rear vents in the top trim, so that's really nice to have, and rear power points. Little mat pocket. And this N line is an attractive interior. They did some cool bits there. A lot of functionality as well as some style bits. This red cross stitching is pretty cool. Let's take a quick look up in the front. Again, you get the N line if appearance is more important to you than features. So in this segment, I don't think it's the best bargain. I think a Limited or an SEL is a better way to go. But a lot of fun functionality up here. You got wireless device charging, and it should be noted that in 2024, They're going to be rolling out over-the-air updates to allow wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support. That's always been one of my biggest pet peeves with Hyundai products, is that the upper-level trims, you got to have a wire running through for your CarPlay and your Android Auto. So I'm glad to see that they're going to be switching that. Also, a really nice utilization of space in the center console area. These cup holders can flip out, and then you can use them as cup holders, or you can put them away, and then you got a whole bunch of space. I think it's nice of them to do that, because a lot of times you get in vehicles in this class, something like a Mazda CX-30, and there's just not a lot of good places to put things. I think the Corolla Cross is even a little tight. Also, we should applaud them on all these physical controls. Look at that. Physical controls for the heated seats, and in the Limited, you even get ventilated seats. So you got all those. You'd have a heated steering wheel in the Limited as well. Some plugs, and then all these physical controls. They don't even have the little thing that you got to press and switch over. I mean, it's all physical. And look at this, a column shifter. How often do you see that? So the upper level trims are getting a column mounted shifter right here, which also frees up the space. I think that's really, really clever. A little bit of place to put things there. Decent sized door pockets. And a 3-spoke steering wheel. So it's pretty well laid out interior. So let me go up the road here, grab Paul, and then we'll head out for a drive. All right, I'm out here with Paul Eisenstein, and we are heading on back into Baltimore in the N line. And you can see right in front of us, there's actually a Limited. So you can see a little bit less of the dramatic styling. The spoiler up on top doesn't have the slats. A little bit more of a mature car. And coupled with the longer wheelbase and the longer design of the car in general, it doesn't get any taller, but it does get longer. I think the Limited makes more sense, either a Limited or an SEL with the base engine in this car. This N-Line is very cool, it's sharp, but really at the end of the day, all it is appearance. And it's about $1,000 cheaper than the Limited, but you're missing out on a lot of the really cool party piece features that this new generation Kona provides you that a lot of the competition really doesn't. The Limited car in front of us is about $31,000, that's probably before destination. Yeah, so probably about 32.5, 33 out the door or so. So about $4,000 less than a comparably spec'd Corolla Cross hybrid. And aside from the fact that they really ought to give us a hybrid powertrain here in the Kona, that you get it in other markets, but you can't get it here in the States. Aside from that, you get a lot of things inside the Kona that you don't get in a lot of the competition, like surround view monitor, something that I think is really nice to have when you're navigating driveways or parking lots. You can get ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel, which you do not get in this trim, but up in the Limited you'd get.
That is the #1 feature in Detroit.
Yes. Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, anywhere, really. You really ought to be having it. What else? We get dual zone climate control, but that comes pretty early in the trim walk, if you will. This 12.3-inch screen is coming in all the models. This one's giving you navigation, and like I said earlier, you're getting wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto sometime in 2024. They're promising us that. You get Hyundai's remarkably good active lane keeping system, so you can see as we're getting onto the highway here, I'm going to engage the cruise control, and then using this little steering wheel button. Theoretically speaking, I can let the car take care of itself. It balances in between the lanes. It's not going to jet off here. Nope, stays right, perfectly balanced. It really is an intuitive style system, and something that to be getting at this price point is remarkable. Hyundai's also providing you a lot of standard safety features, things that if my child or my significant other were in the car, I would absolutely want to have in my new vehicle. Things like rear cross traffic alert with braking, your blind spot monitoring. I'll be able to demonstrate here in just a moment. When I engage my blinker here, there's nothing coming up on this screen, but if we were in the Limited car, I would actually get a little camera that comes up in the gauge so that I don't have to crank my neck over and check my blind spot as closely. I can simply look down on my gauge and see if there's anybody in my blind spot. So a lot of those type of features that you're missing out on here in the N-Line, for what? For some cool wheels and some red accents?
Better seats.
Paul likes the seats better with this Alcantara, this fake suede, but the leather in the Limited is going to be the preference to some as well. Some of the things that do really stand out, though, compared to the previous generation Kona, are the noise. And again, if you step up to the Limited, you get tires with acoustic foam inside, and we've noticed a little bit less road noise from that model, but this engine is much more refined than before, and you can see even accelerating here up this hill, I'm at nearly 4,000 RPM, and you barely hear the engine ticking over, and that's not something you could say about affordably priced Korean cars recently. I remember getting in some of the venues and Konas and having to goose it and really hearing that engine sing.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but we're equipped with an entirely new transmission for this car. So before, Hyundai was playing around with this 7-speed dual clutch automatic, which, if you're not really familiar, for someone buying a Kona, you're not really familiar with the differences in transmission, dual clutches provide two main benefits. One, you often see them in sporty type of cars because they're very quick to shift. You can go quickly, shift between your gears very fast. But manufacturers also like to use them because they're particularly fuel efficient. And that's the strategy that Hyundai had been going with for the dual clutch before. The downsides is that they're not particularly reliable, and they can be harsh when you're kind of driving around city and town, doing a lot of sort of stop and go and shifting. You can feel more of the shifts. And so far, throughout our entire day of both riding in the passenger seat and being behind the wheel, this 8-speed normal style automatic transmission has been very, very smooth. It's always been in the right gear for me to take off and to merge. The only thing I've noticed from a driving perspective that's a bit strange is you have to give it a lot of throttle in order to get up to speed sometimes. You might find the car feeling lazy, as you might describe it. And it was described to me that they did that a little bit because of emissions, a little bit for fuel economy, but I've been able to narrow it down if I'm, say, kind of coasting down right now for this traffic, and then I decide I want to get back up to speed. I really have to push into the pedal for it to start getting up and going.
But it's quiet.
It is very quiet. It's very quiet, and that lazier throttle does make it so my passengers don't get jerked around as much. So it provides a really smooth experience, and that's what has summarized the Kona for me in this new generation. The styling and the way Hyundai is promoting the car would make you think that it's this very spunky, sporty, youthful sort of car, but it actually doesn't really drive that way. It drives fairly mature. The steering is light. We've got a thin steering wheel. It's predictable. The technology is fairly intuitive. I love having so many buttons to quickly access all of my HVAC controls and commands. We used the voice control to set our navigation here, and it worked pretty well. It really is a mature package, and the fact that for just a little bit over $30,000, you can get into something with this much technology and this much usable space. Did you sit in the back seat at all, Paul?
Just briefly in the back, and they definitely did improve what they said, an addition of about 3 inches of rear space. And in a vehicle like this, in this class, getting 3 inches is a major improvement.
It's huge. There are certainly compact, and this is technically a subcompact crossover. There are definitely those in this class that you can't comfortably sit in the back, whether it's because of the recline of the seat or because of the knee room. And this has headroom, knee room, and proper recline. I'm pretty impressed.
Well, it's the extra wheelbase plus a thinner seat.
Yes. Yeah, I pointed that out as well at the beginning. That's that little bit of thoughtfulness to redesign the front seats and add a little bit of arc for your knee room. It really goes a long way for adults, and I suspect it would go a long way for rear-facing car seats as well.
You used a word just now, if you don't mind me continuing, that's really a good way to describe a lot of what they've done in this car. Thoughtful.
Yes. I noticed that as well when we talked about the center console while we were static. They really thought about, okay, I'm spending time in this car day in and day out, and I need to throw stuff in here. How is it going to make sense? I really like the Mazda CX-30, but there's nowhere to put anything in that car. You get a cup of coffee and sunglasses and a cell phone, and all of a sudden, all of your interior storage is full. Look, Paul's got an entire shelf in front of him. He could put a book, he could put sunglasses, he could put his cell phone. I've got all of this room right here. The door pockets are pretty large. Yeah, there you go. Oftentimes you get these doors that only have enough room for a water bottle, but you can see we have a water bottle and room behind it.
And notice you've got this.
Yeah.
So if you're using that for navigation,
you can actually see it.
You can actually see it, and depending on the model, you can get a wireless charging.
Yep.
Also, notice no shifter.
Yes, I really love the addition of the shifter. Something that does kind of bother me, though, is that in the lower trims, we haven't gotten to see it, but you're still getting a traditional shifter. Mm-hmm. I do kind of wish Hyundai would have just gone all the way and given us the column shifter, but they got to give you some reason to step up, I suppose, and that's a good argument, I would say, to have this right here. No, I mean, the fact that both you and I have been able to hop right in this car this morning and have conversations with people in the vehicle and never once be looking around for a certain control or missing a turn because something didn't feel right. I mean, we felt comfortable with the car immediately. And I think that's going to be really important for people in this class that are maybe going to go to the dealership and test drive one and immediately get behind the wheel here and go, oh, this feels right. This feels natural.
And this layout, yeah, some people say, oh, it's a little old because they're buttons. And I'm very pleased with it. I'm a tech person.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
I'm not your grandfather who can't figure out how to use a screen.
Yeah.
I can program computers. I can program and write code, but I like to have real buttons.
I fully agree. Now, manufacturers eliminating buttons is a cost-cutting measure. That's all there is to it. They'll try to get away with saying things, oh, we're making it tech-focused or futuristic. No, it's for them to be cheap. And Hyundai has actually gone the extra mile to keep these buttons physical, volume knob, even though I will admit it is pretty far away. If you are a shorter-armed person, reaching up to the screen is going to be difficult.
And notice this. We're on the map. You can actually zoom in and out.
Yep. Without having to dirty the screen with your pinchers. Yeah. No, that's what's really impressed me, spending time with this Kona. And we're going to get it back at DMHQ. We're going to do our fuel economy testing. We're going to test out this Bose sound system. And I'm really curious to drive the base engine as well because it doesn't make much power. The entry-level motor is going to feel slow. There's no getting around that. I'm just curious how slow and how uncouth the engine and powertrain is going to act. But I think the real value plays for the Kona here are the SEL model. That's going to get you the base engine, but it's going to be priced right, and it's going to get you just enough of the features to feel like it's worth buying a new car and not just buying an old used Accord or something like that. And then I think the other value play is the limited model, because I can't think of anything else in the class that gets you as much technology as that car gives you, especially at that price point. Yep. So this N line is cool, but if you're going to get something sporty, you might as well either step down and get something like an Elantra N, which really wouldn't cost that much more than this, and still give you a good amount of space inside. That's going to be a lot of fun. Or an Elantra N line, if they still even make that car. I think they do.
Yeah, with the new version they will.
Yep. Or you could wait until they might come out with a Kona N, which is, as you may know, Daily Motors Vehicle of the Year last year. We absolutely love that car. I think it's a great value too. So yeah, I suspect a lot of dealers are going to order these N lines, unfortunately, because they're going to look cool on the lot. But hold out for a limited if you can. Spend that extra $1,000.
Or think about the electric.
Yes, yeah, the Kona electric as well, aside from its little dimple on the front, because for some reason they thought putting the charge port on the front was important. Other than that, that's going to be a compelling package as well. We don't have any information on pricing for that electric one, but depending on where it comes in, it's going to be a competitive one.
And which battery pack? You have two, which is going to be important.
It is, yeah. That's gonna muddy things a little bit too, because you're gonna pull up onto the dealer lot and go, oh great, they've got a Kona electric, but you're gonna have to check and see which battery pack it has. Yeah. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching. Once we spend a little bit more time with the Kona at home and live with it some more, we'll share some more thoughts. But if you like the styling, this is definitely going to be one in this class to check out. And if you're one of those who is kind of right on that fence, if you're like, well, I don't really need the full size of something like the Tucson, which has gotten larger, or something like a CX-5 or a RAV4, and you want to keep your costs down a little bit, but you really don't want to give up that usable space and the feature set, this might be a good option.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for it. It's going to be hitting dealers probably right about now. Does that sound right?
It should be in sometime in the coming weeks, and I believe the electric will be starting to roll out late this year.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and keep an eye here on Daily Motor for our fuel economy testing. If there's another con I have about the Kona, it's just that it doesn't give us a usable kind of fuel sipper version, because yeah, the base engine's going to be decently efficient, but I think the Corolla Cross Hybrid provides a really good argument right now for someone who wants to drive an appliance that really sips gas. Yeah, but this is going to be a nice one. It feels much more mature than any Hyundai in this class beforehand, and I would be happy to spend many more days behind the wheel.
Yep, I'd be comfortable with this as a second vehicle for me.
Absolutely. And something that just came to mind before we wrap up, Hyundai still doesn't do any sort of stop-start, turning the engine off when you're stopped. So if you're somebody who's annoyed by that sort of feature, get yourself something like a Hyundai, and you're not going to have to worry about that. Starter's going to stay in good shape. So thanks to Paul for coming along with us, and thank you to Hyundai for having us out here, and thank you all so much for watching. and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.